So now all our organizational setup is completed and we are ready, or we are good to go with creation of the sales order process. Creation of the sales order process. Okay, let us do this. Let me create a new sales order and explain me something which is based for upcoming classes. Okay, what is the T code for creation of the sales order? VA01 is for creation of the sales order. Okay, so to create the sales order, what you need? You need order type, sales document type, and then you need your organizational data. So in the very first screen, to create a sales order, you need to specify what kind of order type you are going to create, and also under which organizational area or under which organizational units you are going to create this sales order. So that we have to specify, right? So your company might be dealing with different states, different districts, or different countries, right? It could be possible. So by taking into consideration of that fact, what we need to do, we always need to specify. Okay, so what is the sales area? What is sales area? Sales area is the combination of sales organization, distribution channel, and division. Sales organization, distribution channel, and division. So the combination of these three elements, considered as sales area. So that means at any point of time you are creating the sales area, you have to specify under which sales area this sales order is going to be applicable, or under which sales area we are going to create the sales order. So and then you can hit enter. And if in case you are creating the sales order, with reference to quotation, or if in case you are creating the sales order with reference to billing document, or if in case you are creating this sales order with reference to any contract, so then what we can do, you can use this create with reference to order, or create with reference to, you see, you can create this order, you can create the sales order with reference to the quotation or with reference to the order. Order means, like generally what happens, whenever you are creating a sales order, if you have the similar order available in the system, and if you do not want to enter the data again, so whenever you wanted to create a sales order, if the same order, for example, the same customer, same material, same organizational units, and everything is same, if everything is same, and if you want to use that as a reference, what is the benefit? So if you are using the reference of an existing order to create a new order, then it saves a lot of time, right? So you do not need to enter the customer, you do not need to enter the material, you do not need to enter anything. Whenever you are giving the reference, what does it mean? Basically, whatever the data is available in the previous referencing order, the previous order which you are using as a reference for this order, for this new order, all the data elements automatically copied to the new order. So that is the reason we are using, like, the reference. And especially when you are referring the order, so the same data is also available in the previous order. All the data elements will be copied here. You can verify, maybe the quantity may be different, the quantity, the previous order maybe having like 100 quantity, now you wanted to create it for 200 quantity. So those kind of things will be differ, or if you want to change anything, you can change it. But system perspective, system will copy everything from the previous referencing order to the this order. So that is referencing the order. Whereas quotation means, what is quotation? Basically, you know that our process, the sales process starts with the inquiry, quotation, and order, delivery, goods issue, billing. So now the point is, like for example, you already created a quotation as part of your sales process. So you completed the inquiry and also you given the quotation to the customer. Okay. Now the customer is okay to your agreement. The customer is okay to your quotation. That means whatever the price, whatever the delivery conditions or delivery dates you specified, all those details are okay with the customer. Then what we do? Then we go ahead with creating the order. Then what we can do? We can give a reference of that quotation instead of like creating order as a new. What you can do, you can simply refer the quotation so that all the data in the quotation, like the customer will be copied, material will be copied, okay, like this, all other important data elements available in the quotation will be copied to the your order. So that is referencing the quotation. And there are two more things. You can also give the reference of the quotation. You can also give the reference of the scheduling agreement. So this contract, and you can also give the reference of contract. You can also give the reference of the contract, and you can also give the reference of the scheduling agreement. So contracts and scheduling agreements are sales documents. They are sales documents, but they are different. Or you can say contracts and scheduling agreements are the special sales documents. In other words, they are outline agreements. Contracts and scheduling agreements are outline agreements. So which require some special process. We do not deal in the same way how we are dealing the sales orders. Okay, that means contracts and scheduling agreements, they are part of the sales process. But the way how we deal, the way how the process works for the contract, the way how the process works for the scheduling agreement is little different than the sales order or quotation or inquiry. So that's why we will discuss the contract and scheduling agreement separate. So maybe after completing the basic functions, when we start discussing the advanced topics and special processes in SAP sales and distribution, then we will discuss about contract and scheduling agreements. Okay. So now the point is, even we can give the reference of contract, even we can give the reference of the contract to create a order. So that order, the sales order which we create with reference to the contract is called as release order. Okay, that we will discuss later. So for that means whenever you have a requirement of creating the release order, then we can give the reference of the contract. And scheduling agreement also we can refer, but that's a different process we'll discuss later. And we can, while creating the order, we can also give the reference of the billing document. So in what context we use the billing document to create a sales order? For what kind of order we give the reference of billing document? Can any one of you think for what kind of order we give the reference of billing document?
For invoice correction and return.
So for example, when you go to the shop, when they will ask you where is your bill or where is your receipt, where is your invoice, and in what context the shop people will ask you, like, do you have your receipt, do you have your bill? So whenever you have decided to return something, right? Whenever you have decided to return something, what they need your billing document, your invoice document, your receipt. So that means in the similar way, whenever in SAP you are creating a written sales order. A written sales order. Why are you creating the written sales order? To accept the return, to accept the goods which you already, the written sales order is created. The written sales order will be created to accept the goods which you already sold, because the customer decided to return the goods. That time they need the billing document or the invoice. So in the similar way, SAP also, whenever you are creating the written sales order, then what you can do, you can use the difference as a billing document, the existing billing document. And also, if there are any like corrections or quantity corrections, so that context also what we can do, we can use the billing document as a reference and create orders, written orders, and then you can fulfill the subsequent activities. So this is how the reference works. Okay, you can create a order, you can create any like order with reference to inquiry, with reference to quotation, with reference to order, with reference to contract or schedule agreement or billing document. Okay, so you understood that what is inquiry we already discussed very beginning, and then what is quotation, and what is order, and what is billing document. But contracts and scheduling agreements we will discuss later. Okay, this is what create with reference. So and then get inside. So after entering the organizational units and then order type, you can hit enter. It will take you to the next screen. So where you need to specify, okay, for which customer you are creating the, whenever you are creating a sales order, you need to know majorly three things. One, who is our customer? For which customer we are creating the sales order, and what material we are selling, and also what could be the quantity, Okay, these are the very primary things. Okay, okay. So you need to enter sold to party like customer, and then you have to enter material and quantity. And in addition to these fields, uh, we also made some fields as a mandate. So there is some process called incompletion control settings. Incompletion control settings or incompletion process. Incompletion procedures. Let me note down so that so just give me 1 minute to open the sheet. One minute. I'm not sure where is the form.
I can learn to understand you much better if I can get familiar with the way you talk. I need your permission to help.
So during the sales order process, during the delivery, okay, there are some important fields what we have to take into consideration. Because, for example, so whenever you are dealing with the customer, so you need to know what are the payment agreements, right? Am I correct or not? Whenever you are dealing with the customer, what we need to know? We need to know what are the payment conditions or payment terms between you and your customer. So that has to be decided right beginning, right? Am I correct? That has to decide right beginning. Why? Whenever you complete the order, complete the delivery, complete the goods issue, complete the invoice, that is billing document. So who will collect the money? Who will collect the money? So after billing, where the information will go? You know that, right? After the billing, where information will go? To which department you will transfer the billing data?
Accounting.
Accounting. Why you are transferring the data to the billing department? That finance department. Why you are transferring your billing information, the billing document which you created to the customer? Why are we transferring that information to the finance department? Because they are the people who collect the money. We don't collect the money. We find the person. We, like SD people, find the sales prospects and sell the goods and then deliver the goods and then create the billing document, and so that the finance department will have contact with customer finance department, and they start getting the money. So whenever the finance people receive the billing document from the SD side, okay, then what happens? The finance people need to know what is the due date for the customer to make the payment. Am I correct? To make the payment. So that who has to specify the payment conditions or the payment terms has to be specified in the order itself. Okay. So if it is not specified, then later point when the billing information has been transferred to the finance department, so the finance people will confuse. So they cannot force the customer just the day when they receive the invoice. They need to look at what are the payment terms, what are the payment agreement between the customer and the company. So according to that, the finance department of the company will contact the customer finance people and they start initiating the process. So for that reason, what happens? Okay, we need to make sure the payment terms information is available, is already entered in the order process. So that is why the system is asking you enter the payment terms. Enter the payment terms. And also there is something called Incoterms. So Incoterms means generally like what happens whenever you are doing the delivery, whenever you are doing the delivery, you know what happens? It is like this. Sometimes the seller is having the responsibility. Seller is having the responsibility to take care of the goods till it reaches the customer premises. Okay, customer premises. That is one scenario. Sometimes the seller is only responsible. Sometimes the seller is only responsible till the goods leave his premises. Till the goods leave his premises. And sometimes what happens? The seller is responsible only for the insurance. Only for the insurance has to paid by the seller. Sometimes the seller is responsible for only making the payment for the freight cost. So like this, there are different scenarios. Okay, when the shipping process happens, between the company when the shipping process happens between company and the customer, there are different conditions. In some context, the seller is complete responsible till the goods reaches the customer hands. Sometimes the seller is only responsible to just start do the delivery. Once the delivery is done, once the goods left the premises of company, that's it. The no seller is not responsible for anything, and the buyer is responsible. Sometimes the seller is responsible for making sure of insurance if something happens to the goods, or sometimes the freight is responsible by the seller. Sometimes the freight is responsible by the uh, customer. So in all these contexts, to tell the system doesn't know, right? To enter the system, to specify the system who is responsible for what. So that is specified in the form of Incoterms. There are different Incoterms. There are different Incoterms. Okay. So most on like most very popular Incoterms are free on board and cost and freight. Okay, and X works. There are different things. There are X works means like from the plant kind of thing. Like this, there are different Incoterms available, which you can specify, in the sales order process. In the sales order process. So that what we can specify during the sales order process. Okay, sales that also you can specify. So apart from these, and as I already mentioned, you can enter the material and you can enter the quantity. Okay, and the next question is, before you start before you save the sales order. So once everything is fine, what you do? You need to save the sales order, right? You need to store the sales order in the system. Okay. Before you do that, there is an option which you can verify. Check the incompletion log. What is it? Based on the description, can anyone tell me what is incompletion log? So basically, this functionality, if you go to the edit, if you go to the menu, under the menu there is second option called edit. Under the edit, you see something called incompletion log. So what is the use of incompletion log? Basically, this incompletion log checks, are there any important fields? Are there any important fields are missing? That means how the system knows which field is important, or how the system knows which field is important, which field is optional. Because in the incompletion procedure, there is a functionality called incompletion process. There is a functionality called incompletion procedure. Okay, so this incompletion procedure we define at a header level. That means sales order header level, and also we define this incompletion procedure sales order header level, and also we define this incompletion procedure sales order item level, sales order header level, sales order item level, and also we define this incompletion procedure delivery document header level, delivery document item level. Okay, and there are other levels where we can define this incompletion procedure. So that means, what is this incompletion procedure? Header level, item level. So as I already explained, the sales order has 3 different levels, right? It has header level, that means the sales order header level data and sales order item level data. So what is header level data? So for example, if sales order has 5 items, if sales order has 5 items, okay, if the sales order has 5 materials, if the sales order has 5 products, so whatever the data is applicable for the header level, whatever the data, for example, freight, for example, payment terms, or for example, pricing date, or for example, requested delivery date. Okay, these are all the header level fields, right? If you can see that, if you can see, for example, if I go to the header, okay, header data, okay, you see this is header data. So header data, what is there? So the sales area data or order type, okay, the document date, created by, created on, okay, currency, pricing procedure, pricing day, okay. Even if you go to the shipping, okay, you can see that delivery block or shipping conditions. So whatever the data is available for the header level of the sales document, that is applicable for all the items, that is applicable for all the materials, that is applicable for the all the products. Okay, the data of the header level is applicable for all the items in the sales order. But whereas if I go back, the data which is applicable for the each item, so item 10, item 1, item 2, right? If you have 5 items, there is five different products, means 5 different items. So now at item level, each item can have, at item level, each item can have its own data. For example, if I select the line item, if I select the line item and double click it, so it takes me to the item data. So what is this data? So this item data is responsible for the item 10, that is T-GTR. The item 10 or the product 10 is the first item. 10 is first item in the order, right? So this is applicable for all the for the only that item. Okay. For example, the quantity, is this quantity applicable for the second item or only this item?
Only this item.
Only this item. Okay. And then if you go to the sales B, okay, if you have any price reference material, you have the material group. Is this material group applicable for all the items in the sales order or only for this item? Only this item. So like this, whatever the data available at the item level of the order, that is applicable for that specific item only. Okay, that means we have header data and item data. And I also explained there is something called schedule line data. Schedule line data. It is very small level. Schedule line level data. Header level, item level, and schedule line level. Okay. But here, when it comes to the incompletion process, so we have like incompletion procedure for the header level, incompletion procedure for the item level, incompletion procedure for the delivery document and delivery document item as well. We have something called incompletion procedure. So what happens, what it will do, we define this incompletion procedure in the background. We define that incompletion procedure in the background, which is called basic function. As part of the basic functions in the sales and distribution, what we do, we define the incompletion procedures. So that means we specify for each and every document type, we specify what is the incompletion control. What is the incompletion control for the document type and what is the incompletion procedure for each and every item. So for the header level, we specify incompletion control. For the header level, we specify incompletion control at the document type level. Okay. When you go back, if I save it, okay. So when you create a sales order, what we do when you create a sales order, we specify the document type, right? Okay. the header level control, the header level incomplete control, the header level incomplete process is specified at the order type level, sales document type. Whereas, okay, item level where we specify, anybody remember, as part of the item category configuration? You remember? So for the item level, we assign the incompletion process. How or what fields are mandatory for that item, or what fields are required for that item, we specified in the item category level. Whereas for the header level data, we assign the incompletion process to the document type. So I will show you in 1 minute. Let me show you. Vivo V8 is the T code, right? So you can go to the configurations. There are 2 ways. You can reach out the configurations 2 ways. One, you can go to the SPRO, IMG, and by going menu path, by reaching out the menu path, you can go. Or if you know the T codes, SAP also provided something called T codes, so like short codes. If you use that transaction code or short code, it will directly take you to that particular screen. So for the same, this one, maintain sales order type. So I use the T code Vivo V8 to reach out here. But the other way, what I can do, I can go to SPRO, IMG, and then sales and distribution. And then sales documents, sales document header, and define the sales document header. The same thing, right? So this is locked by me because I already opened here. Okay. So like this you can go. You can use the short code so that it will save the time. Anyway, so now what is our order type? GBOR. GBOR is our order type, which I created last night. Okay. If I go, you see, what is it? Incompletion procedure. So why I assigned it? So under this procedure, under this incompletion procedure 11, under the incompletion procedure 11, we already specified what fields are important at the sales document, at sales order header level. What fields are important? Okay, what fields are important at the sales document header level. So under the header level of the sales order, what fields are important, that I already specified. The incompletion procedure level, which is 11, which is assigned to this GBOR document. That is one I did. And also what we can do, if we go to Vivo 7, in the sales order, each item category will be determined, right? In the sales order, if for each item category will be determined, right? That is item category configuration, what we decided, what we discussed. That is what we discussed, item category configuration. So if you go to the item category, you can see there is one more incompletion process. What is the incompletion procedure assigned to the item category? 20. Incompletion procedure 20. So that means for each sales order item, what fields are important or what fields are required, that is controlled under the incompletion procedure, which is assigned to the item category. So like this, what happens? We specify what fields are important for each item under the item category, and we specify what fields are required for the header level of the document at assignment of incompletion control to the incompletion procedure to the document type. So that is what we do. So that way, what we need to know, Actually, I'm explaining what basic functions we need to know, what basic functions we need to know as part of the, what basic functions we need to know as part of our course. Okay. So the first thing is like, very first thing is pricing. Okay. I will come to that. So now do we have price for this? Do we have price for the sales order? Do we have price available for the sales order? What is the value of sales order?
No.
Zero, right? Is it good to deliver and goods issue and create the billing for this order?
No.
So without price we cannot sell, right?
Yeah.
So that means what you can understand. So during the sales order process, pricing is also one of the important. Okay, pricing. Without pricing, you cannot imagine SAP SD model. Without pricing, you cannot imagine the SD model. And for any SAP SD consultant, pricing is the mandatory area. Every SD consultant should know about the pricing. Such a huge impact or importance in SAP SD module for all the consultants. So without knowing the pricing, without becoming expert in pricing, you cannot even go for an interview. You cannot go for an interview. Okay. So that's why we are going to start pricing from the next week onwards. It will take at least 5-6 hours of time required for the pricing. And once you understand the pricing and some other things, we can start applying for the jobs also. Like we can start do the marketing. I don't know. We can start like we can take care of the remaining things. Okay. If anyone wanted to enter into the market, if you are okay, if you feel that you are good enough for applying the jobs, so we'll have a a preliminary interview kind of thing, and then we'll take care of it. Not a problem. Okay, but pricing is very basic and mandatory thing, which is a prerequisite for any interview or for any job. Okay, so without that, it's very tough. And even on the top of it, there are some other functionalities. The priority goes less. There is a low priority for that, but still we need to know. Okay, and then that way, like we need to talk about pricing. That is called pricing procedure. Pricing procedure. Okay, so this is the one of the very important area in SAP SD model, which comes under the basic functions, and then we need to understand the incompletion procedure. So, and then let me start work with the sales order, and then you will come across what other things we need to take care. Okay, now, so if I go here, go to the schedule line. What is schedule line data? What it tells? What the schedule line data tells? So the schedule line tab confirms whether your goods are confirmed or not, whether the goods are confirmed for the given delivery date or not. What is the delivery date? The delivery date is 8th March and order quantity is 10. Order quantity is 10 and it's rounded to 10 because 10 is always rounded to 10. And is there any confirmed quantity for this order?
No.
No. So that means what? The quantity is not available, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let us do the availability process. Okay. So let me click on the availability check process. So what the system is asking? So in order to perform the availability check, what is important? Because if the system does not know at what plant it has to check the goods, so whenever the system trying to confirm the goods, it needs to know which plant stock it has to verify. Am I correct? So it looks like, if you go to the incompletion log, what are the missing fields? One of the mandatory field is the plant is missing, right? The plant is missing. So now tell me, if the system does not know what plant stock it has to consider, is it able to confirm the goods? If the plant itself, no, right? If the plant itself is not sure for the system, it cannot check the goods. It cannot check the stock. If you specify the plant, what happens? The system can perform the availability check. So what is the plant? So actually, to determine the plant, there is a process which we will discuss later, okay? Because I wanted to come across all the errors. That's why I intentionally left alone. Some things left alone without completing, so that I can explain you. Okay. Now see, whenever I enter the plant, what the system is doing? The system is performing the availability check, right? Whenever I enter the plant, the system is performing the availability check. If I say continue, okay, still there are some more fields missing. Okay, so this also I will explain. So basically, if you maintain the gross weight and net weight, if you maintain the gross weight and net weight in the material master, if you maintain the gross weight and net weight in the material master, the product, if you maintain the details in the product, the sales order automatically copies it. The sales order automatically copies it. If you do not maintain, you have to maintain manually. Okay. It looks this material is created without maintaining those values. That we will take care of later. Okay. And then shipping point also missing. Okay, it's not configured. I will take care of it. Okay. So now, what is the other important basic function? What you understood? Availability check, right? You need to know how the availability check happens. Okay. We need to know what is pricing process or what is pricing. We also need to know what is incompletion procedure, and also we need to know availability check as well. Okay. We need to know how the availability check works. So it is not that system just it will perform the availability check if you enter the plant. There is so much what you need to know. There are so many configuration settings. There are so many other dependent entries, other dependent parameters which controls availability check process in the sales order. That's why we need to know the availability check as well. And then the next question is, whenever you create a sales order for the quantity of 10, what is your expectation once you save the sales order? Once you save the sales order, what is your expectation?
100%. We have to donate. We have to deliver that.
So if you want to deliver, what has to be there? The stock has to be there, right?
Yes.
So who will make the stock arrangement? Is the sales people perform the stock arrangements, or production, or procurement, or who will do? Swati, which department will take care of production of the goods or purchasing of the goods if it is external procurement? Which departments will take care of? Which areas of SAP or which areas of company will take care of it? Production will be taken care by production planning department, right? Production PP department, and procurement, purchasing of the raw materials, purchasing of the finished goods, or purchasing of the semi-finished goods will be taken care by the materials management. That is procurement or the materials management. So that way, don't you think that this information has to be notified by those department? Don't you think that the quantity of your sales order has to be notified or has to be transferred to the other departments or not?
Yes, it has to.
Right? That means we need to transfer the requirements. What we need to do? We need to transfer the requirements. So that is called, there is a functionality called transfer of requirements. transfer of requirements, which we need to understand. So that means when you are creating the sales order, what is happening? The pricing process happens, the pricing process works, incompletion process works, and availability check works. Or in other words, when you create a sales order, system will perform the process of pricing, system will perform the process of incompletion, system will process the perform of availability check, system will perform the process of availability check, and the system will also perform transfer of requirement function. System will perform the pricing function, system will perform the incompletion function, system will perform the availability check, system also will perform the function called transfer of requirements. So we need to know, because sometimes we do not need to transfer of requirements. For example, if it is a sample sales order, not the sample, like if it is you can say like you remember, right? If it is, let us say, quotation, do you want to transfer the requirements to production? Or if it
No, not confirmed.
if it is inquiry, not confirmed. Inquiry, the order is not confirmed. Quotation, the order is not confirmed. So then we don't need to transfer the requirements. And even during the order time. So for example, if there is no dependency, if there is no dependency for the production, if there is no sales order dependency, sometimes what happens, some companies, irrespective of the sales order, they make the stock, right? They make the stock. For example, let us say in the make to stock scenario. So make to stock, what happens based on the past projections? So what is the last month sales, or what is the last year sales, or what is the previous year sales? So that means based on the past history, we can forecast the future. So if you produce the stock on different criteria, you really need not to transfer your order quantity to the production or to the procurement department, right? Am I correct or not? So that means it is not that we always transfer the requirements to the different departments, our production or purchasing department. So that reason we need to know how you can stop the requirements not to transfer, how you can transfer the requirements. We need to know all the detailed functionality of transfer of requirements. Okay, when you execute the sales order, system will perform the function pricing function, system will perform incompletion control process function, system will also perform availability check function, system will also perform transfer of requirements function, and also what other things system will perform. For example, you are dealing like customer, you are giving some credit, you are giving the credit to the customer, okay, and then do you keep giving the credit to the customer, or at one point if for example, if you put a limit to the customer credit, $50,000, and what are you expecting when the $50,000 limit is completed, when you are creating a new order which is crossing 50,000 and it becoming 55,000? So what kind of response you are expecting from the system? If the customer is crossing the price limit, if the customer is crossing the credit limit set in the system, in the background, so what do you expect from the system? The system has to,
it should not deliver.
basically it should apply block, right? It should apply some kind of a delivery block. It can accept. It could accept, because maybe you will play later. That's why you cannot stop the order. It can accept the order, but it should apply a delivery block. So that means there is something called credit management functionality. Something called credit management. So when you are creating the sales order, when you are processing the sales order, when you are executing the sales order, the system can also perform credit management functionality. credit management functionality. So that also we need to know. That also we need to know. And also, whenever you are creating the sales order, so you need to know. So how the accounting works. Okay. Ultimately, when you create the billing document, what happens? When you create the billing document, what happens? The billing information, the billing document will be released to the finance, okay, and finance will collect the money. So during the time, when you are sending the billing information, when you are sending, when you are transporting, or transferring or sending the billing data to the finance, you have to send, different ways. That means all the domestic revenues has to go and sit in one account. All the domestic revenues go and sit in one account. All the export revenues go and sit in one account. So all the specific product divisions can go and sit in other account. So like this, you can differentiate your revenues. You can save your revenues into different accounts, right? You cannot keep all the revenue in one account. Am I correct? We cannot keep all the revenues in one account. We have to make sure the revenues are sitting, revenues are posting to the different accounts. So for that reason, what you need to know, there is one more function called revenue account determination. Revenue account determination. We need to know the other function called revenue account determination. We need to know the pricing procedure function. We need to know incompletion process function, availability check, transfer requirements, credit management, and revenue account determination. Okay. And also, if you go to the sales order, header, okay, and there is something called partner. Okay. So how these partners are determining? For each document, the partners are determining, right? Even if you go to the item, level, even for item level also the partners are determining, right? Item level also partners are determining. So that partner determination also we need to know that. Partner determination. We need to know the partner determination. Okay. Pricing determination, incompletion determination, availability check, transfer requirements, credit management, revenue account determination, partner determination, and also there is something called material determination, and also material listing and exclusion. Material listing and exclusion. Basically, material determination means sometimes the product ordered by the customer, is not available. So then what you can do, if customer is okay, you can deliver the similar product, right? Am I correct or not? Hello? Sometimes you are okay with take the similar product, right? Maybe different brand, right? Maybe different brand or a different.
Yes, Venkat.
Okay. So to that, what we can do, you cannot take the decision upfront. So that you can do in the background. So we can define some control settings for the configuration and master data in the form of material determination, so that we will not lose the business. So when the customer is ordering for A, so if he is okay, based on the terms and conditions, the system automatically propose the B, product B. So that is taken care by the functionality called material determination. Okay, that also we will discuss as part of the basic functions. And then material listing and exclusion. So what is this material listing and exclusion? For example, you wanted to restrict certain products. So you wanted to list certain products to the customer. That means you wanted to sell only 10 products. You wanted to sell only that 10 products to the customer A. Okay, and you don't want to sell other products. You don't want to sell other, you wanted to just sell only the 10 products to the customer. So that what we can do, if you define listing in the background, if you define listing, material listing configuration and maintain the master data, if you do the material listing configuration in the background and master data, then whenever some user tried to sell a product which is not listed, the system will not allow you. The system will not allow the business user. Actually, it takes 1 or 2 hours. We'll discuss later, but very high level I'm telling. So if you make a list of products using the material listing for a customer, then the system allows any user to sell only that listed products to the customer. So that functionality is also there as part of the basic functions in the SAP SD. And also exclusion. Sometimes what happens, there are 5 products which you don't want to sell, which your company doesn't want to sell, to that customer. Then what you can do, you can exclude, you can make a exclusion list. Material listing and material exclusion. You can prepare a list of products which you can exclude for that customer, and you can make a list which is exclusively for that customer. So that functionality is also there in the basic functions. So these are the some of the important basic functions what we have to know from the next week onwards. And apart from this, we need to know some determinations. That is also important. Some determinations. Okay. So those determinations are required. How the plant determination happens in the plant determination. How the plant determination happens in the sales order. Okay. And also how the shipping point determination happens. Because every time you cannot enter the shipping point plant manually, right? Am I correct? Every time you cannot enter the plant or shipping point, even the route. Okay. How the route determination happens in the sales order. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Venkat.
Okay. Sorry, it looks audio paused for some time. Okay. So how the plant determined in the sales order, how the shipping point determines, how the route it determines, and item category determination we already discussed. That is not part of this. And also how the storage location. Okay. How the storage location determination happens. How the storage location determination happens. Okay. So these are the some of the determinations which we have to know. How the plant determination, how the shipping point determination happens, how the route determination and storage location determination happens. So this makes you feel more comfort to handle the sales and distribution module. Basically, these basic functions and these determinations. And this is this concludes the actual SD area. But apart from this, there are some special. Some special business processes. There are some special business processes which we will discuss after this. Okay. First of all, we have to complete. We have to understand these things. Once we understand, we'll go to the some special process. As I told you, there is something called intercompany sales process, contracts, scheduling agreements. Okay, and also consignments, third-party process. So we also need to know that we'll go after completing these areas. So those are all some special process. But as a SD basic consultant, as a SD consultant, these basic areas we need to know. Okay, and we'll start pricing next week. And please get ready. And it is going to be our biggest basic function and biggest concept in SAP SD model. Okay, but I will make you understand in an easy way. But it takes more time. Like we need to spend close to 4 to 5 hours. Okay. Take care and
okay, Venkat.
And the recording I will share it after some time by end of the day. And please remind me if you will not receive this one. Okay, recording by end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Venkat.
Okay, as I mentioned, we will go in a slow pace. Completion target date, I don't want to put anything because you don't have any SD background or any SAP background. I want to make sure everybody understood what I'm delivering. That's my goal. I don't want to just finish like that. Okay, please keep it in mind, and I will try to spend more time. But even if it is getting late, don't worry. But whenever you are ready for the market, I will tell you. Then we can start take care of the all interviews and okay. Just you still need to wait some time. But again, even after you start applying for the jobs, we'll still continue to discuss other things. Okay, but once you come across the required things, then we'll start work on it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Venkat.
Thank you.